This is Gemara Nazir Daf Samach Vav Baruch Hashem, another incredible Masechta that we're going to be concluding together. We pick it up in the bottom of Samachayim and Beis, and just one word is that we're as well going to fill in Shkoyach Rav Ofak. We're going to fill in the few words that got cut off on the shir that was posted back from Daf Chaf Amid Beis. That we'll do that at the very end by the final Mishnah. But before we get there, we have one last pretty large sugya, not to get everyone scared off. On the bottom of Samachayim and Beis, the Mishnah, we're continuing the thought process, the agav of an agav, the tangent of a tangent, the left turn of a left turn, discussing reglayim ledavar, different cases of sfeikos, when we rely on the presumptions that were, etc. So says the Mishnah, B'shiva derachim boitkin es azav. 7 ways we could check azav. Now, what we need to know, the background over here, that is necessary, is that a zav is a form of emission from the body of a man. There's 2 types of emissions that a man could have. He could have the emission of the regular emission, which is zera, a seminal emission, or he could have zav, which is some form of disease. The Ramban calls it ala taira, and it is different dinim of tumah v'taira, more relevant to the world of Beis Hamikdash b'siyata d'shmaya, and it's not so common nowadays either way. But the dinim of zav are that when you have 3 emissions, then you become a zav gedayla, and you have to wait zayin nikirim. Now, what else do we need to know? What we need to know is that if we could trace the reason that one had some sort of emission, then it does not have the same level of severity, and it will only have the regular level of tuma like a bal keri, which is you have to wait, go to the mikvah, wait for the sun to set, and then you are tahar afterwards. Whereas once it's a proper zav for 3 emissions, then you have the dinim of zayin nikiyim, etc. You have to wait 7 days. So the point that we're trying to figure out in this Gemara is there are 7 ways to check that potentially this emission was not a regular bodily issue, thereby which will have the regular dinim of zav, but rather it's going to be the din of keri. So let's see, the Mishnah will explain as we go along. Ad shaloi nizakik leziva. But these are only before you're nizakik, you're confirmed that it is a ziva. Once there is a confirmed zav, then there's nothing else that we could do, and no longer do we pin it on external factors. To be a little more precise, it's the second emission, as this first Mefarish of here points out. It says, oh, actually, ra'a beis re'iyos. Once there's going to be 2 re'iyos, the first re'iyah, the first time you see this doesn't really make a difference, because either way you have to wait for the sun to set. The second emission is going to be the critical one. So once there's going to be 2 that are not pinned on external factors, the third will be irrelevant. But now the second one, if we can put it on some external stimuli, then the dinim will change drastically. So now, says the Gemara, there's even dinim of carbon that we're going to change. That's the difference in zav and keri. So what are the 7 ways of checking? If you eat certain foods, fatty foods, garlic and whatnot, that could bring along the emission. Drinking excessive wine. B'maso, b'kfitza, lifting heavy things, jumping, u'b'chayli, if one is sick. Ubemare over here, one who saw something, one who had certain thoughts, if he was aroused by certain images or seeing a certain woman. Misha nizakik leziva. But once one becomes a zav, once you have those 2 re'iyos, ein bait kinaisai, then no longer there's a din of bedika. No longer do we check if it came from any of these external stimuli. Oinsai usveikai. In such a scenario, if there's a case of an aynes, it was a mishap, it was a suffix, we're not sure, or he sees a zara, he sees semen tameim, the halacha is he's going to be tamei. Why? Sharaglayim ledavar. Because we have raglayim ledavar, This is, of course, the reason why this comes in over here. We have a reason, because once he's a confirmed Zav, then we do no longer say that the external factors are causing the Ziva, causing this flow that he had. But rather, once we know he's a Zav, then we assume that that is where the emissions are coming from, his issue of being a Zav. Hamakes Chaveiro, in a similar, not a similar vein, but in the world of Raglayim L'davar. If someone strikes his friend, Vamdua Lamisa, and they evaluate him that the man's going to die. So now, Al Pi Sanhedrin, one killed another. Vahakel. And then what happens? Mimashahaya. And then he gets a little bit better. Lacher Mikan. And then afterwards, he gets worse and he dies. So the question is, did Reuven kill him or not? Reuven gave a fatal blow. Shimon's about to die, but then he got better. And then he died. So is this called that Reuven did it or not? Says the Tanakami is Chai, Rav Nachem Amar Potter. Why Rav Nachem says you're Potter? Again, Sharaglayim L'davar. Because it's that which to stand upon the basic idea that he got better. So the fact that he got better for a moment is reason to say that is the reason why. And it's a new death that wasn't caused by the first person. So says the Gemara, Minani, Mili, where do we know this difference between the world of Zava, between time 2 and time 3, that if we could pin it on external stimuli? Amar Rav Nason Amar Kra says the Torah of Azav Zevai. The pasuk says, and if someone who has an issue of ziva, and the pasuk says, continues, bein zachar bein nekeva. So from here it says, Rav Nasan l'riya shlishis iskish l'nekeva. This third re'iyah we're equating to a nekeva, to a zava, and that's how we're going to know that's the dafka. For this third time, the Torah is teaching us that he's going to be tameh, even if there was external reasons, but it's not enough for the third, only for the second re'iyah. Ask the Gemara, Vatan Rav Elazar, Aimer says Rav Elazar, B'shlishin baikin, I say, B'reviz ein baikin, I say, Rav Elazar disagrees, Rav Elazar. Rav Elazar says the third time you do check for external stimuli, only the fourth not. Says the Gemara, Ella bi'itim kamifligi. Rather, says the Gemara, you know the machlekes Rav Elazar and the Tan of our Mishnah Chachamim is be'itim, or I should say better, be'esin. With the word es, do we darshan the es, vazav es zayvai. Rav Eliezer is darish esin, Rabbanan is loy darish esim. We continue, Einsei Usfeiko, says the Mishnah, whether it's an Einis or a Safik, and we turn over to Samach Vavam and Aleph. Amar Rava teaches Rava, loy tema safik chaza. Safik loy chaza. Apologize that we have a big line in the middle of our page over here. Loy tema, says Rava. Don't tell me. Safik zava, safik chaza, safik loy chaza. Sorry, let's just get us all. There we go. Says Rava. Loy tema, one more time. Top of Samach Vavam and Aleph. Says Rava. Loy tema safik chaza, safik loy chaza. The safik in the Mishnah is not whether he saw in the Mishnah or not, whether there was zera there, whether it was zav there, whether it was semen, whether it was this other type of discharge. Elavadai chaza. We know for sure he saw, and what he saw was ziva, not regular carry, regular a seminal emission. Sofek machmas shechvazaroi sofek machmas. We just don't know the impetus. Was it here? Machmas doesn't mean because, it means mixed together. We don't know that. Is there within this re'io, in this within mission, there's zera as well or not? And therefore, once you're nizaki l'toma, we say you're tamei. Whereas if you were not nizaki l'toma, if we didn't already make you a zava, then we could say you are tahar. Continues the Gemara, shechvazaroi Tameya, quoting the Mishnah that as well as Shechvazera is Tamei. Lamai, says the Gemara, what exactly is this din that the Shechvazera is Mitama? If you're going to tell me Lamago, that if he touches Lamago, that if the Zera touches anything, it will give off Toma, says the Gemara. Would it be worse than the regular Zera of someone who is tar? And if the Zera of someone who is tar contaminates, certainly the Zera of a Zav would contaminate. So what's the Havamina? Says the Gemara, rather you're right, 6 lines down, Elazar shall zav mitama, not bimago with touching, bimasa with lifting it. Says the Gemara, man shamis le'lahad amar shechvazar shall zav mitama bimasa. Who is this Tana? If you're going to say it's the following the Tana that we learned to the price of Elazar Omer. Says Rav Elazar shechvazar shall zav mitama bimasa. The zera of a zav is not mitame, whereas Rav Yeshua Omer mitame bimasa. So our mission is going like Rav Yeshua. Why? But Rav Yeshua explains. It's not stam. The reason it's mitam is because says Rav Yeshua, because there has to be a trace of ziva, a trace of semen inside of it, not stam. So says the Gemara, Filu Rav Yeshua lo yamar al mishum sechsuchi ziva. Rav Yeshua is telling us the reason, that the whole reason is because it's for sure some sechsuch ziva, says Rav Yeshua inside of it. Avol be'inel loy. I think I said it backwards. That the seminal emission, the zera, must have had some zav in it. But let's say be'inel. Let's say if the zav sees zera straight, only semen, then it sounds like loy. It wouldn't have been tama b'masa. So who's going to be this Tana that says that it does? Loy amar. Elam Ravada Barava, you're right. Noob Shah, what does the Mishnah mean that Shechva Zara is Metame Loimar teaching us in Tailin Ba, that we have no Talia, that we don't say that when a Zav sees Kari, we don't pin it on a previous emission in the world of Toma V'Taira. Says the Gemara, Savar Ababa Kameder Rav Lememar ID Chol Shahu Dechazi. So Rabba thought to explain that the reason is that where did the Keri come from? The fact that his body is weak, and therefore now that he saw the Zav, we put it on the same reason, and therefore when he's a Zav and he sees Keri, we assume the same. But Amar Le Rava, but Rava says to him, but tonight we learned in the Mishnah, Gershon is Gayer, Mitame Biyad Beziva. Right away he'll be Tam Beziva, and we don't say that the Ziva that came to the Ger was because of his weakened state. Amar Le, the Higel, those words, Enocha Godo, Chayli Gadol Mizeh, fascinating Lashon. Chayli doesn't mean sickness, it means weakness. And we assume that one who became a Ger, one that was Mikabel, explains the Rosh, the old Malchus, one who's Mikabel, the old Mitzvahs, the Chayro is weak as well. So if he's weak, we should say that when he sees Zav, it also should be pinned on the Kari, that the weakened body said. And we see that's not true. Says the Gemara, third attempt, Ella Tanohi. So Noob Shat, what does it mean in the Mishnah? Shechvazar is metam is machlikis Tanoim the Tanya. Shechvazar shall Zav is metam b'masa, kol me'is la'is for 24 hours. Rav Yosi Omer Yoime just on that day. So b'mai kamifligi, what is this machlokes? So we're going back and we're saying that what does it mean? Shechva Zari Mitame means b'masa. We asked who is the Tana. We're saying it's Shari in this machlokes, whether it's 24 hours or it's only day. B'dish Shmuel, Shmuel Rami. Shmuel asked the contradiction. Ksiv ki yabecha ish, not ish. Excuse me. Ksiv ki yabecha ish asher. Lo yatar, that's not tar mikri laila, that he had a seminal emission. Uksiv lafani sarv, then it says towards the evening. Yerchas b'mayim, you can go to the mikvah. So man damer meisleis daig milafani sarv. The man damer that says he's up tummy for 24 hours because it says leis aref towards the evening. V'idach daig mikra laila. The other man damer that says no, he doesn't have to wait 24 hours only that day. He says mikri laila because it says that even it happened that night. Ask the Gemara, Man Damar Milafanes Arev Oksev Mikre Laila. According to Man Damar that says towards evening, but the pasuk still says Mikre Laila. Amalei Orcha Dekari Lamasya Balayla. You know what that's teaching me? That's just teaching me that the norm of carry comes when? Comes at night. And that is the end of this fascinating discussion about Toma V'Taira. Now, before we close out the Masechta, what we're going to do is we're going to dive back to Daf Chaf Amid Beis. Chaf Amid Beis, so anyone who wasn't with us at that shiur, or perhaps learned to their own, realized that on Chaf Amid Beis there was a technological issue. That what happened is on Daf Chaf Amid Beis, what happened on Chaf Amid Beis? What happened on Chaf Amid Beis was I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up Chafam Beis. If I can't pull it up in a minute, we're just going to say it outside. Chafam Beis, we skipped 3 lines of Gemara. So those 3 lines of Gemara, basically the problem here is that people reached out that they've been following along with the shiur, and they're nervous that they didn't learn those 3 lines. So what we're going to do very quickly is we're going to try to scroll to Daf Chafam Beis. Seem is taking more than we anticipated. I apologize for the technology issue over here. And I think we're there. Almost. Almost. And what we're going to do is we're going to read Chafam Beis. So just as a chazara, as we pull up the page of Chafam Beis, the sugya over there is they have people pinning their naziras on the person before them. And the question is, how much time, we're here. How much time do you have to say your nazira is pinned on the guy before you? Okay, so you know what? We're going to give up trying to get the page open. Look at that. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Here we go. Chafam Beis, says the Gemara right after the Mishnah on Chafam Beis. This was a new parak. The Gemara there says, Yosef Reish Lakish Kamed Rav Yehuda Nesi of Yosef Kamer. And this is a rule in Kula that how much time do you have to retract something? Same thing over here means to add on something. Toich Kedei Dibur. Said the Gemara of Akama Toich Kedei Dibur. Kedei Sheila Shalom. The amount of time to say Shalom. And Akama Kedei Sheila Shalom. How much time is that? Said the Gemara. Kedei Shaimer Shalom Talmud L'Rav. You could say Shalom Alecha Rabbi. And Amar Le, so Rabbi Yehuda responded to Reish Lakish, and the Mefarish here explains this is not a kasha, but really a raya to Reish Lakish. He says, Suloi Shavkis Rav Chal Talmida, you don't leave any time for a Talmud. Because if someone needs to make himself a Nazir based on the previous person, and his Rabbi walks by, he has to say Shalom to him, and therefore he won't be able to say that he's a Nazir, he won't be able to say, pin his Naziris on the person before him. And with that, quick interlude, we conclude the Masechta Samach Vav Amud Aleph with a Mishnah, which is really no sheikh is anything we're talking about. We just want to end on a topic of Nazir, and then you're going to see we just want to end on a positive topic. Says the Mishnah, Nazir. We have a Nazir, Haya Shmuel, give a kid divrei Rabbi Nehorai. Shmuel was a Nazir, says Ram Nehorai, how do I know? Shenemar, Umayra lo yala al roshai. Because the pasuk says Umayra, and no Mayra should be on his head. And what do we know from there? Nemar b'Shimshon Agibra, the ultimate Nazir, said Umayra. Remember b'Shmuel Umayra, Ma'Mayra, Amar b'Shimshon Nazir, Amar Amar b'Shmuel Nazir. Amar Rav Yosi, what do you mean? The word Mayra there doesn't mean Mayra. It means Mayra like with an aleph. It means fear. That he had no fear. Amalei Ram Narai. What do you mean? How am I going to go up? V'shama Shaul v'hargeni. Perhaps Shaul is going to hear, and he's going to kill me. So we see he did have a fear of Basar V'dam. So that's the machlekes whether Shmuel was a Nazir. We finished the Masechta. Amalei Rav Chia Berei, says Rav Chia to his son. Now, what in the world this is doing here is quite random, and it seems the reason is we're going to see just from Naharai, like we just had in the Mishnah. He tells his son, Chatoif ubarich, a Gemara that we saw in Brachas, that you should be the one to lead benching. Grab the mitzvah to be the one to bench for everyone else. Says the Gemara Lemeimer that seems to say the Mavarich Adif, that it's best to be the Mavarich. It's best to be the one that benches. Vatani learned in a Braisa. Rav Yosi Aimer Gadol Amin Yosi Min Mavarich. It's better to answer Amin than to make the bracha. So which one is it? V'Amar Rav Narai Hashamayim Kachi. And Rav Narai said, you're right. It's better to say Amin. Teita, I'll bring you a raya. Sharei Gul Yariyam Misgarin B'Milchama. The raya is the Gulyarim, the common soldiers They're in battle. The Gibayrin Naitzchim. And the Gibayrin, the champions, are the ones that seal the victory. So this is a nimshal to teach us the one who concludes the bracha, the one that says the Amen is the most important. So which one is it? You want to be the Mavarich? You want to answer Amen? We see what an Amen is. An Amen is a Gibar. An Amen is the one sealing the victory. But answers the Gemara, you're right. Tanayim Tzmachlikis Tanayim. Te'tanya Echad Mavarich V'Echad Amen B'Mashma. First time it says the one who says the bracha, one who says the Amen, are both including the pasuk. Ella shememarin lemavarich tchila. But here we see in this brisa, you should be the one to make the bracha. So on one hand, we just saw you should say Amen. This brisa says you should want to make the bracha. That's going to be this machlekes. And we end over here, just like we end in Masechta brachas, and just like we end in Maseches not Yavamis. Now we have Maseches Nazir, and the bracha is that we should also conclude Krisos together. Krisos has the same conclusion. Amar Rav Elazar Shalom Shalom Ba'olam Tamid Chacham, increase peace in this world. Shenamar V'chol Banayich Lamudi Hashem Rav Shalom Banayich says the pasuk, your children are all the Talmidim of Hashem, and abundant will be the peace of the children. Everyone remembers the Gemara in Brachas concluded Al Tikri Banayich Elo Banayich, builders, that Talmid Chacham build the world through their shalom. And the bottom of the art scroll has a beautiful note quoting the Aruch Laner that the word Banayich Beis Nun Yud Chaf is brachais, nazir, yevamas, increases, the four mesechtais that end with this incredible Gemara about the shalom of Talmidei Chachamim. Hajon halocha akutim elam nazirus. Uslik Allah Meseches Nazir. Baruch Hashem, it's been quite a long haul. Mazel tov, and b'siyata d'shmaya. What's the bracha? The bracha is that not only should we start more Mesechtais, but we should chazer them, and we should chazer more, and we should know more, and we should keep on increasing our Talmud Torah b'siyata d'shmaya. Mazel tov, and as always, invite a friend, give him this chos of coming and learning Saita together, b'siyata d'shmaya.